Things off with us today. Legal correspondent David Lesh began 2012 with a series on discrimination law in particular and in regards to employment discrimination. Today he'll continue with that series and discuss the Family Medical Leave Act and what that exactly means for employees who have to take leave of absence to deal with work and family responsibilities. Here, as always, is David Lesh, and we welcome you now to the show. And when we talk about the Family Medical Leave Act, one of the things that always come to mind is that expected mother, or if you're that guy who's going to be that dad, you need the
Look,
family.
here's the thing. You know, you go to work, and things happen, and you say, somebody in my family is not doing well, they're ill, or I am not doing well. How many times does that happen? You leave your employment, and you come back, and your job's not there anymore. Or you know, your job is there, but they're cutting your pay because you missed, 2 or 3 months. Well, this is a form of discrimination, and this is an employment discrimination series that I'm doing. So let's talk a little bit about the way Congress makes sure that you're protected if you need to take time away from work because of a family emergency. Right. And in 1993, they passed the Family Medical Leave Act. And what that means is if you or an immediate family member, and we'll talk about who that is considered to be, has a medical emergency, and your employer in the private sector has 50 or more employees, and they are engaged the company's engaged in industry or commerce, and almost everybody is, if they have at least 50 employees, then if you give your employer 30 days notice, letting them know exactly what the medical emergency is, you will be given 12 weeks off. All right. Now, of course, the employer can make sure that you still use your sick time or use your annual leave time and use it up, but you will get those 12 weeks. And when you come back, you will get the same job that you had before you left, but there are many conditions that we have to follow. All right. First of all, if it's the public sector we're talking about, then you don't need those 50 employees. If it's the public sector, you can just give the 30-day notice and make sure that you have the rest of the guidelines met.
Right.
But it's when you're in the private sector that you have to make sure that your company has at least 50 employees. So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay. So let's talk about giving notice. How do you do that? Well, you're going to have to give it in writing. You're going to have to give some kind of doctor's note or something to let the employer know that there really is an emergency. And you have to make sure that whoever it is that you're going to take care of is covered by the statute. The statute basically says the employee's spouse is covered, their child, son or daughter, but it does not include a parent-in-law, so that doesn't come into it. But your parent probably would be included, but your son-in-law would not be, or your mother-in-law would not be. And
that's where a lot of the gray area in terms of some people is concerned, because
they
talk about family.
But yet, if you have a disabled, an adopted child that's with you, or somebody who's disabled that you can sell, they would be covered under the Equal Employment Opportunity EEOC's policy. So you have to take a look at the statute, but more often than not, you just use your good common sense. If it's a family member and you're taking care of them, and they have a medical emergency, or you have your own medical emergency, you give something to your employer in writing and say, okay, I need to take time off. However, how long do you think you have to be working for your employer to be able to do this? What do you think?
That's a big question. What am I thinking? I have to be on the job at least a year?
At least a year. It's exactly a year. And it doesn't have to be 12 months continuously, but at least you've logged 1,250 hours worth of employ. Right? It can be in blocks of time, but if you have that year...
So it doesn't necessarily actually mean a year. It means 1,250 hours.
Correct.
So if I'm doing a lot of overtime and I accumulate 1,250 hours, I'm still good.
Then that's good.
Okay.
Okay, but if you've only been on the job for 6 months and you haven't done 1 year worth of overtime or whatever it is, well, then you can't ask. So it doesn't work that way. And also, as I said, the employer can say, hey, you know what? Fine, you need time. I understand that, but you have use your sick time first. You have about a month of sick time. Use that up. Then you have another couple of weeks of your annual vacation time. Use that up too. Of course, you get paid, but you use that up. So that's something that employees don't understand. They think they just, You
just get a free 12 weeks. No, it requires that you get rid of or use that other stuff too.
You have to use that. Okay, now, during the 12 weeks, the employer wants to know what's going on. When are you coming back? Are you going to come back before the 12 weeks? You're going to take the entire 12 weeks? Let's see a doctor's note. During the 12 weeks, I want to see what your what the reports are, your status, your child's status, your husband or your wife's status. The employer can ask for reports, so you get that back. So it's not just a free 12 weeks. It doesn't. You definitely take the 12 weeks. Okay, but now you come back, right? What if the employer says, well, we had to eliminate your position because we don't have any money anymore. We had the money to be able to do this, but I know you expect your job back, but we don't have the money for your job. Well, you'd lose your job. Do you understand that? But if somebody else has your job, well, then that's different.
Right.
That's discrimination. But if they've completely gotten rid of that particular job because they can no longer afford to keep the job, of course they'd have to prove that, well, then it's not discrimination. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right. So if you do lose your job to someone else, that's when you have a case.
Right.
But the employer can just scratch you out.
Right. Well, so let's say you come back and the employer says to you, well, that job, we gave it to Bob, but we're going to put you in accounting. We're going to put you in someplace else. It's just as good. Same pay raise. Well, it doesn't matter. Same rate of pay. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's the same rate of pay. I enjoyed the job I was doing that Bob's now doing.
So there is an entitlement to the same
exact job.
Let's go over this now. Some people are saying 12 weeks. Okay, so if I take 4, I still have 8 left over?
Well, yes. I mean, you have the 8 left over. It doesn't have to be 12 continuous. You can come back. You go back and forth. You get 12 weeks, but only 12 weeks. But here's an interesting issue. And we're going to be discussing this over the next couple of weeks in other forms of employment discrimination. Pregnancy Disability Act, right? Okay. You get 12 weeks if you're pregnant, okay? Right? You get 12 weeks. Well, what if you're pregnant, you take you take 10 weeks and you come back to work, and now you have another medical issue completely unrelated to the pregnancy, okay? And you want to take another 12. Well, if you can show, this is where the law is a little strange. If you can show, I think, that your ailment or whatever it is that's bothering you, or you want to take care of somebody else, is completely unrelated to the pregnancy, I believe you can take the additional 12. But if whatever your complications were a result of the pregnancy, I don't believe you get an additional 12 more weeks. Okay. In other words, you get the it's either the pregnancy or the Medical Leave Act. You don't combine 12 and 12 and get 24 weeks off. Do you understand that? So a lot of people don't understand that, and there are complications that seem to arise from pregnancy. So you can't put those two things together and end up taking 24 weeks off. It's not going to work that way. And that was something that I thought was very interesting, but that seems the way it was working.
You're pretty ground friendly in the court system. So tell us, what kind of cases are we seeing the majority of when it comes to the Family Medical Leave
Act? Okay, when
you're
dealing with the Family Medical Leave Act, it's a federal law. So whenever you're going to be prosecuting or you're going to be bringing an action based on this, it's going to be in federal court. Okay, so that's very important, which is always a tougher place for you to be. Juries, I'm not saying juries are not always as sympathetic as, for instance, Bronx State Court, Bronx Supreme Court. It's always a great place to be if you're bringing an action, because juries are very sympathetic. Not always with federal court, because remember, jury pools in the federal court are drawing from, whether it's the Southern District or the Eastern District, you're drawing from many different pots. You got Westchester jurors, Suffolk jurors, Staten Island jurors, and Bronx jurors. Understand? So it's a whole different makeup. So it's always seems to be a little tougher to be able to get more sympathy in the federal court system. Doesn't mean that the judges may not give you the sympathy, but the jurors may be a little bit different. But you don't have a choice. If you're suing under the Family Medical Leave Act, it's a federal statute. So you bring it in federal court, and it's a whole different body of law in terms of your ability to bring an action based on these types of suits. I was telling somebody off camera that my office brought a sexual discrimination case against a couple of agencies and tried to enforce it, and it was in federal court. Tough place to bring actions, but it can be done. And this is where you would be bringing an action. Let's say you work for Home Depot, let's say, or Walmart. Obviously more than 50 employees, and they didn't give you your job and your job title back, and Home Depot has enough money to keep your job title there. You go into federal court, and that's where you bring an action.
All right. Well, David Lesh, thank you for telling us this information. We know that you can always catch David on Today's Verdict, as well as catching him every week here as our legal correspondent. And what's coming up on Today's Verdict?
Well, we have an interesting show that the producers are putting together on veterans who are coming back from Iraq and or wherever they were, and are not given the proper psychological counseling by the Army and the federal government when they come back, and what the legal rights are, what the veterans have in terms of legal rights to get that type of medical treatment.